I'm Roz and welcome to the New Homes podcast. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the new Homes Quality Board. So for those of you who don't know, there's a new consumer code of practice which aims to improve the quality of new build homes and enhance customer service and protection. Not only is this a big step for the industry, it's really great news for customers as it will help to build confidence and put the power back into people's hands and homes. So to get into the detail, I'm joined by some fantastic guests. We've got Douglas from the New Homes Quality Board. We have Dan and Luke,
Hello.
Our lovely Redrow customers. And we're also welcoming back Emma, our Customer Service Director from Redrow. So to kick things off, Douglas, please could you tell me a little bit about the New Homes Quality Board?
Sure. The New Homes Quality Board is an organisation that's been created, a not-for-profit organisation, with the principal objectives of delivering better consumer outcomes for buyers of new homes and also for improving the quality of the finish of the new home. The other part is an ombudsman. And what the ombudsman allows the customer to do then is to be able to escalate a complaint that they feel hasn't been adequately satisfied. And the ombudsman will then act in a form of almost adjudication and looking to see what the nature of the complaint is and see whether or not they find in favour of the customer or the developer. And the code is a departure again from some of the existing codes in that it's very much principle-based. And really what the ombudsman will do then is they will look and say, well, actually, has this customer been treated fairly? And looking at the particular circumstances impacting on that customer's complaint, they will then make a judgment on that basis. Now, of course, every customer is different. Their particular issue may be different. And of course, developers are different. So it's very difficult to come up with a hard and fast rule for everyone. So that's why it's more the principle. And one of the key principles we are looking at is, again, the fair treatment of customers. So is it fair for the customer to expect that particular outcome? And it may not be fair. I mean, we will have some customers who maybe have a grievance or whatever, but that's where the ombudsman will look at the complaint that's been escalated, triage it, and decide whether or not it's worth investigating. And if it is obviously to be investigated, they will then pursue that and will come out with an outcome. And the developer is then bound by the decision that is made by the ombudsman. So that really gives an additional layer of consumer protection of what we have just now.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I think the way you were sort of talking around it, sort of the financial aspect, that is something that people are already very familiar with in terms of that regulation that's in place. And I guess, Emma, this is a really welcome addition, isn't it, to our industry and having that regulation. From a Redrow perspective, what will it mean and how are those changes going to affect us?
Yeah, exactly as Douglas said, we've known for quite a while that the change was going to come and therefore it was about getting ready. And I think we definitely in Redrow are about making sure that the customer is the centre of the decisions that we make. And I think we were already on that journey. What we have been able to do now is really look at the detail of what the code needs and make sure that all of our customers, have exactly that experience. And I think it is a good thing for the industry that actually, customers and people coming into it, consumers and the communities that we build in, know that they've got that extra level of protection there or that person that they can go to for advice. But I think from a Redrow point of view, we very much have been on this journey for quite a while. So making sure that our information to our customers is transparent and open as best we can, making sure that it's easy for customers to access the information that they want, whether it be through face-to-face videos, through portals. We've tried to look at lots of different ways to make that experience as simple as possible, right from the time customers reserve up until the end of their warranty period. And I think that's really important to us at Redrow, but it's important to the industry as well, because we know, we are only as good as the whole industry. And, if there is bad news around new builds, customers are afraid that that's what all new builds are like. And we want to make sure that we are championing that for Redrow, but for all of the industry as well.
Amazing, yeah, definitely. And I can certainly see in the way that we have our processes and, Homeowner Support in place, for example, we're already very much on that journey, aren't we? And working with our customers really closely. So talking of customers, we have two of our lovely customers, Dan and Luke, here today, who have a really fantastic Instagram platform called West Sussex Lifestyle, which we all very closely follow in the office and get a lot of house envy from. But being one of our customers, how's your journey been to date with Redrow?
It's been amazing, really. I mean, it is where we've actually been to other people before we came to Redrow, and we've sort of grown with Redrow as we started, and they've looked after us from the start. So it's always been appreciated, and we've always been looked after. So that's all we can ever ask for.
I think we've been quite lucky because when we decided on our particular plot, we got in on our development very early on. So we've bought off plan and we've literally seen it go from a field right to a finished house. So it's been a really great experience seeing the actual growth and build of the house along every sort of key milestone along the way.
And how long have you guys been in now?
It's been about 4 months. Yeah, 4 months now, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Feels like a lot longer though.
And I know we've been talking now around the fact that the industry's been getting ready for this a really long time, and we've been kind of speaking about it and know it's been coming. But from a customer perspective, did you have any idea about a new homes quality board? Is that something you'd heard of before we started these conversations today, or?
No, not really. So, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to find out a bit more about it and know, the ins and outs and what to expect.
I guess when you were initially looking for a home, there's obviously lots of, as you say, other house builders out there, there's the second-hand market. Were there any kind of concerns or any issues that you thought about before buying new?
I think as Luke touched on, we were a bit apprehensive about buying off a plan. You know, we'd never actually sort of been in our house type apart from maybe a show home, which you can get some nice ideas from. But I think that was the main one, and then maybe the current house market, which is the climate of everything that's going on. But that's things that, as Redrow, you can't help. So it's to be expected.
Great. So Douglas, can you tell me exactly what will be changing when the new code comes in?
Sure. Okay. So under the new Homes Quality Board registration, there are 2 or 3 key changes that are coming in. First of all, there's the new Homes Quality Code, which takes the best of the existing codes, of which there are about 5 separate codes out there just now, all run by either individual or collections of warranty providers. It looks also at the gaps that some of these codes have and come up with a single code which is then able to be applied across the whole of Great Britain. Now, one of the key bits of the requirements under the new code is that there must be more information given to the customer up front. So the customer is making a fully informed decision around not only their property, what's happening in the wider development, the costs of running that property over the initial years and so on. So therefore, there's more information which customers will be armed with before they make a commitment as to whether or not they're going to buy the property.
It's a big commitment, isn't it?
It's
an emotional commitment, but it's also one of the biggest financial commitment any of us make, isn't it?
It absolutely is, yes, and it's only right. But that does mean that there will be a lot of information. So therefore, I would imagine that your sales colleagues and so on will be spending more time with their customers, talking through the various requirements, providing more details to conveyancers and so on. So therefore, the customer will have a full package of all the information that they need to make that informed decision. When the customer reserves that property, then there'll then be a 14-day cooling off period. So the customer can then decide during that 14 days whether or not they wish to go ahead with their reservation and proceed to exchange and obviously can conclude their purchase. One of the other key changes is that the customers will now have the opportunity to carry out a pre-completion inspection. So this is an inspection which will be carried out probably a week or so before the customer takes legal completion. The customer would pay for this, but they would have the ability to be able to commission an independent surveyor to come in, go through a predetermined checklist and ensure that the property has been finished to the way that they are expecting it, and therefore move-in day is exactly as they expected. So again, that's quite a sea change from what we've seen just now.
Because the move-in day can be quite stressful, can't it? I'm sure you
absolutely
guys found
is.
there's enough to be kind of thinking about on that day. So if there is an element of that that's kind of removed or made easier, surely that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and the other, I suppose, significant change is that there's a much more prescriptive complaints process which every developer who is part of the new Homes Quality Board must actually apply. So there are now set dates as to when customers must be responded to if they have made a formal complaint, and failure to obviously comply with that does allow then the customer to escalate that to the Ombudsman. There is also a realisation that with any new product, whether it be a house, a car, or anything else, that there will be a period of getting familiar with that probably once you actually start living in it, and once you're ventilating it, once you're running water, heating it, and so on and so forth. So what you will find is that we are expecting the developer to spend, again, more time with customers managing their expectations of how the property will develop within the first 2 or 3 weeks of occupancy. And quite often these would be referred to snagging items. And I think snagging items is an opportunity for a positive relationship between the developer and the customer to know what to expect from the customer's perspective. And then when something does crop up, the developer's got the ability to go ahead and then deal with that quickly. And that's critical to a lot of the aspects of the new Homes Quality Code, is the pace and the detail of communication with the customer, So the customer feels very much that they're involved, they understand what's going on, and they understand what a resolution is going to look like. And I think that in itself will be quite a significant change across the whole industry, and that's one I certainly welcome.
So hearing all that, does that sort of help to reassure customers, do you think? How does that make you feel?
Yeah, it definitely does. Because of all your online platform and all the media, it's really handy to be able to look on YouTube if you want to, or even just through My Redrow. There's so much content you can look at, and it just reassures us as the buyer, really.
I think just in general, when people buy a new build home, knowing that there is that extra level of protection and things that they can do to see how, various things can be fixed, it's really good for reassurance and confidence for actually what you're buying.
Fantastic. And picking up on the idea of homeowner support, obviously that's a big part of your role, Emma. How does that help to work to support customers through their buying journey?
Yeah, so I think, you've got the platform of My Redrow that customers start interacting with really early in their journey, so they go right through their reservation. So all of the documents and things that Douglas has talked about will be updated in time for the new code. But that continues once you move in. So, we very much listen to customers that they want to be able to access self-help. They want to know how to best live in their new home, because living in a new home is different to living in an old home. You have got to live in it slightly different. And exactly as you said with YouTube, that's the way we live our lives now, isn't it? None of us read the instructions. We all go onto YouTube to see how to do it. So that's kind of been part of our preparation as well, to make sure that we're listening to what customers need and give it to them in the way that's right for them. So videos, articles, easy to access documentation. They can go back and look at what extras and options they bought if they wanted to enhance anything going forward. So a lot of the code is about being transparent, making sure that the customers have the information that they need at the right time. And I think that's what we've been building up to. Lots of our systems and updates have been listening to customers, but also bearing in mind what we know the future is going to hold in terms of, what information do customers need to see throughout their journey with us.
Great. And if a customer does have an issue, what would that process typically look like? And what is a common example of one of the issues that we might face?
Yeah. One of the examples we often use is about standing water, which I say might sound a bit ironic in the current climate, but still. But the reality is that a lot of developers will build the house in conjunction with the standards which are set by the warranty provider. The warranty provider could be NHQB, it may be QAssure or Premier or FMB, one of these warranty providers. And each of these warranty providers will have set published standards which the developer must comply with. But those standards are often designed around the insurance risk for the warranty provider as opposed to necessarily what's necessarily best for the customer. There is always an interest in the customer, don't get me wrong, but ultimately it's important that the warranty provider protects their future insurance liability. So you may find a standard, for example, that says that if there is water flooding next to a house and that water is, say, within 3 metres of the wall of the house, that doesn't meet the standard. So therefore, it's important that the developer puts that right. If, for example, that same water is sitting 4 or 5 metres from the house, the developer would be able to say, well, actually, it meets the standards of the warranty provider. But that might not be a satisfactory outcome for the homeowner who didn't really want an impromptu duck pond in their garden. So therefore, you end up in a situation that, well, where does the customer go? And in that situation, the customer would be perfectly entitled to go to the Ombudsman, make it a formal complaint, first of all, to the developer, and the developer doesn't remediate it. Go to the Ombudsman and say, actually, I don't think this is a fair outcome for me because I have invested a considerable amount of money in this house. This was not expected. And therefore, the Ombudsman would then have a look at that and decide whether or not that was a good outcome for the customer and adjudicate accordingly.
And Emma, from a Redrow's perspective, how does our kind of customer support, and if we do have any issues, how are they resolved?
Yeah, so I mean, we wouldn't want any customers to have complaints or, but we know in real life these things happen. So what's really important is that we set out what does that look like. So if a customer has got a complaint, what should they expect? So we've learned from other industries that are already regulated, industry, financial, utilities, that type of thing. So things like downloadable PDFs that customers can go and access themselves really easily through the website that will show them kind of being able to submit a form that is really easy and they can clarify exactly what the problem is. And we have various stages of escalation, and we would want to stop that going any further and be able to step in and resolve it. So, we've worked really hard with things like our website to make sure that that information is transparent and easily available for customers, because whilst we don't want something to go wrong, if it does, we want them to know what the steps are going to be. And I think, like Douglas said, the most important thing is communication, keeping customers updated what's going on. If we're not going to hit a date, it isn't great, but actually if you've got the information and you understand why, then it doesn't feel so bad. So that's what we've been working really hard on, to make sure that we've got these milestones set up, we've got systems that allow us to be alerted to these things, but also that information is really easily accessible for customers.
Right, and is that something you found during your Redrow journey in terms of finding the information, but also when you potentially have need to speak to anyone from a customer service perspective? Has that been a journey that has, or an experience that's been good?
Yeah, I think so. I think things like the Redrow, My Redrow and the portal has been a fantastic area for uploading any issues. And once something is on there, you can see where things are. So from our point of view, where a sort of niggle is at any sort of stage in time. So having that as an area or an outlet to put things is a really great place, rather than doing it all verbally, because things get lost. You've got something, once it's there, right, this will be dealt with in due course. So yeah, it's great to have.
And that's kind of helped us as well, because customers are reporting it in that fashion. We are easily able to see, well, what are the type of things that they are reporting to us? So therefore go back to root cause. Well, how do we eradicate them before they become a problem? Or if an issue with, people are struggling to control their heating or whatever, then that's when we step in and make new videos. So actually that kind of conduit of information going backwards and forwards is helping inform what the future journey and experience looks like. So, we're all learning from it and continuously adapting and reacting to the feedback we're getting.
Yeah, that's great, and that's definitely not kind of standing still, is it? It's constantly moving it forward and changing it as we get more information and learn more from customers. So I know you guys had a few questions you wanted to pose yourself to Emma and Douglas, so please feel free to fire away.
So Emma, when are you looking to roll this out with Redrow?
So we've been working really hard. We've registered as part of the New Homes Quality Board, and we're looking to activate at the beginning of October. So lots of work going on behind the scenes, getting ready for that, lots of hurdles to get to, but very much Redrow is aiming for the beginning of October, but that will look different for different developers.
Well, yes. I mean, so far there are over 80 developers who have registered. They're going through this period of readiness, going through all the necessary training and other changes which they have to put in place. And then they will be activated. So we would anticipate that we will start to see other developers activating in the third quarter of this year. Although that might seem a relatively small number, going by the number of developers there are in the UK, believe it or not, those 80 developers build best part of 80% of all homes in the UK. So already there's a critical mass there based on the output of the development industry.
I think one of the other key parts of the code, it calls for vulnerable customers to be serviced, to make sure that we have adapted service. And I don't think I'd be wrong in saying that I think that's probably something that's probably been managed locally a lot of times in the developers. But now what the code calls for is for that to be very clearly set out. And again, it's things like that developers, and certainly as Redrow, we're taking really seriously, and we want to make sure that we've got everything in place to be able to cater for all of our broad spectrum of customers in the best way possible.
So one of the things that the New Homes Quality Board is doing is we're setting up specific training modules that the industry will be able to then access and actually be able to look at how they can then make themselves and their colleagues much more familiar with how they deal with a customer that has a vulnerability. But it is a critical area which we do want to address.
For any complaints or issues that are then passed forward to the Ombudsman, is there a charge or a fee to the consumer?
Not at all. No, one of the key requirements that we've insisted on is that the Ombudsman is free for the consumer to access. What you find with most Ombudsmen is that if the Ombudsman agrees that a complaint is to be investigated, there is then a charge levied on the developer, in this case, relevant to that particular complaint. And that would be normally a standard charge, but there will be no charge to the customers at all.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great news. Well, thank you so much for your time today, guys. It's been a really great session, and I think it will be really useful for our customers. I think we can all agree that it's a really positive step for the industry and a really great thing for us at Redrow as well. So thank you very much for joining. Please like and subscribe the channel, and don't forget to check out our social media channels. We look forward to seeing you again soon.